folks. Once JJ loads in. All right, we got everybody back. I apologize. I had to pee too, so I decided I was going to go pee as well. If you are still watching from our earlier cast here on Twitch, this is your official warning that Tri-Fighter should be 3 points and Jan Orris should go up to 10.
When you said 2 points, I was ready to throw my monitor out my window.
You know, that was only for JJ because he was driving me nuts with all his damn 2-point ships. I hate 2-point ships.
There should be 2-point ships in the faction.
Right.
Just for the useless ones.
Anyway, we cannot focus any longer on X-Wing. I have officially moved into my Universe Extended mode. So I don't have the brain to think about X-Wing anymore. With that being said, we are going to do a spoiler cast for Andor. This will have to be episode 4 and 5. I apologize, the overlay says 4, but we didn't do one last week because I didn't feel very good and I was very tired. So we did not do one last week, but we will do one this week to cover episodes 4 and 5. Joining us from 312 Squadron, Mr. Nicholas, the Tinder God himself. Though your beard's not white enough or long enough to, really be portrayed as God, I don't think. So
I'm the Greek god, man.
You're a Greek god. All right. I think they were fatter too. You're a pretty skinny dude for Greek god.
He's like Poseidon, because Poseidon is like fit and he wears no shirt.
Remember, emphasis on Tinder and Tinder God, okay?
All right. If you don't know who 312 is, you can head over to their Discord and their Twitch. They stream every Sunday and some other day.
Got it. Yeah, Fridays on and off casually. Sundays we stream X-Wing. We're going to stream in person on this Wednesday too. So yeah,
well, awesome. Well, good. They'll give me something to watch on Wednesday. So
yeah, I'm really excited about that. It'll be fun.
All right. So spoiler over. Here we go. We are officially having a conversation about Andor episodes 4 and 5. So I'll start out by saying I still love this show. I feel that each of these episodes has continued to contribute towards the overall feel and story arc. I'm actually happier that we're getting the 12 episodes because it gives them 2 extra episodes to flesh out stuff that normally these directors just kind of gloss over. I will say this feels the closest to the Clone Wars TV show which is obvious. That one is probably my favorite, especially the latter seasons in terms of story development. I feel this closely mirrors some of that, except for it's obviously live action. Nick, what's your thoughts?
So I have some pretty hot takes that you guys might agree with, but I will say that Andor, without just from a broad statement real quick, is the highest quality produced Star Wars show that Disney has created. It blows The Mandalorian out of the water from a screenplay perspective, from a character development perspective. It's just a little less action thus far. So I'm loving it. It feels like it's a show, a highly produced show that just so happens to be a Star Wars show, and it's not the other way around. It's not a Star Wars, show first, emphasis on fan service and all that other stuff. And it's world building, and it's everything that I love about Star Wars is like learning things and like seeing that stuff develop. So,
and there's no hot rod, multicolored race Potter that just
it has no identity crisis. Even The Mandalorian had this overly formulaic first season that they did a really good job of addressing in the second season. But yeah, no. And then the Book of Boba is just goofy in a lot of ways, kind of thrown just like whatever sticks on the wall they use kind of thing. This felt like they could have 10 years to write this show, which is very thought out. So,
yeah. JJ.
Yeah, so far I've really, really enjoyed the pacing for the show itself. I do understand some people that do want the pacing to like ramp up a little bit, like in terms of the action side, but it's okay, right? You got to understand the confines on which the story is being told, right? This is Andor's first official mission working for the Empire, or the Rebellion, and we get to see him like kind of develop his role as a rebel operative in this kind of scenario, and just seeing him grow from episode to episode, just the little nuances, stuff that normally don't see in other shows. We'll definitely get to see it over there. And side note, I can finally understand why Rack has 3 crew slots for the Decimator, because man, it is roomy inside of that ship.
Inside of the Decimator.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Or is there a Decimator that I just missed?
Yeah,
Is that what
I
you
don't
guys-
remember there being a Decimator either.
It's that ship that what's his name flies,
Luthen?
Andor. Yeah, the
No,
ship
that's
that he
not a
flies,
Decimator, dude. Is
that
it?
is definitely at least a version of it, just
Okay.
based on the model of it. It's
Yeah.
not exactly the VT-49, but it's definitely at least an earlier model for it. And man, that
Okay.
is roomy inside. So yeah.
Oh, also, sorry, one more thing, Tanner. Just the fact that they got Stellan freaking Skarsgård in
Yes.
Star Wars. That is the A. That's like S tier of all S tier actors, and it's awesome. We'd love to see it. All right.
No, I agree. So I have. So let's talk about the episodes, since that's kind of what you were here for. So we're talking through episodes 4 and episodes 5, and so episode 4 we get to see him get introduced to the tribe that is supposed to be stealing a bunch of money from the Empire, which we're going to talk about that because I kind of feel that's a weird plot point, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding how credits work in the Star Wars universe. We'll come back to that in a second. And then the second episode, we're seeing, kind of the development of Mon Mothma, which I'm actually excited to see, because we've never had that before. And they're not making her out to be the nicest person ever, right? It's she kind of feels a little pissy towards her family, and
Her husband sucks.
yeah, but it just kind of feels, there's a little bit difference. You're getting a side we don't usually get to see, and it does feel a little bit more real because of that, more like a real politician. But then we also get to see Cassian kind of develop and go into, learning and demonstrating his worth to the tribe, which I think he has more skills than we know about. That's my theory behind some of that. Is there's more skills that we still don't know yet that he has developed other places, because of who he originated with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that once the heist actually comes out, we'll get to see a lot more of his skill set, from what he's learned growing up, especially from his adopted mother that took him in and taught him the ropes. And I'm actually really excited to see how that plays out, because they're setting up this build up for how the team is coming together, for this particular mission. There's a lot of uneasiness between the team, just because they don't trust Andor, for what he brings in. And I thought actually it was a really smart play for Cassian to just come right out and just say that, hey, he's being paid and that's why he's going there, just to kind of like dispel all the distrust that was brewing because of his interjection into the team so late in the game.
Yeah. I'll just touch on the Mon Mothma point. There's, if you can look him up on YouTube, there's some deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith where they're basically talking about forming the Rebel Alliance. It includes the same actress who plays Mon Mothma as Mon Mothma, and Padme and Bail, and I think a couple other people. It's a bummer that they cut that out. That was a deleted scene, because it was kind of the first development of her character on such a basic level, and then also establishing that they were worried about the Empire from the onset, and it wasn't just like it took several years for them to start doing anything about it. But it is good to see that they actually are kind of giving her like a subplot, and they're following her in the show. It's and the whole thing with her and Luthen is very cool. How he's basically running like a front, like a fake shop, right? To get, to be able to communicate and access the people like Mon Mothma to continue to funnel things through and keep the rebellion movement like moving forward. Those are all things that I find to be really interesting about these two episodes. The thing I will say that I I don't really have many critiques about Andor, and I am super on board with it taking it slow and that slow burn, and this for the sake of character development and good writing. However, I do wish the episodes were like 45 minutes because 2 episodes of high setup is kind of brutal. No matter how you dice it up, it's like an hour long, high setup, and then you're like left like on a cliff, like it's like what I thought we were gonna see something. So I'm really hoping that the next one, we're gonna get a lot of action. I would be really upset if they had another 30 minutes of them kind of getting ready, getting close, knocking on the door, and then the music fades. It's like, the credits roll, and I'm like, we got to see something. I think it's episode 6.
I hope that the next episode isn't like 20 minutes of them staring at the sky. I'm like, wow, that's a really pretty sky for that event. And then,
oh my God, we know that's not going to happen. So my prediction, how about this? I guess I'll give my prediction for it. I believe they're going to go in there and they're going to lose four of those people are going to be dead. And I feel this personally, I feel it's a little bit of lazy story writing. How they've written some of those other characters. Personally, but that's my theory is four of them are not going to walk out of there.
Do you think the kid's going to die?
Yes, 100%.
He'll die trying to save Cassian. I think. I think he's definitely the candidate to die.
I think the guy that doesn't trust him is going to die trying to save Cassian. I think that's.
I think he's actually going to live because there has to be an antagonist directly to push Cassian more, and he's going to probably like blame him for the death of the crew or something.
Is the colonel going to die? Is it the colonel and the lieutenant? I'm trying to remember. The lieutenant.
Yeah.
Lieutenant. Do you think he's going to get caught?
Nope.
No.
I think he's gonna have to tip him, and he's gonna have to fight against them. He's gonna have to instruct it to make it look like he isn't. But this is where it goes to my question about why are they stealing money? Like, I get why they need money, but isn't all that shit traceable? Like, how are they gonna launder it?
I think it's a disruption thing. I don't even know if they're necessarily like keeping it for themselves per se. I'm sure they're going to use it for something because it's money, but it's more of it's for the entire like sector, that payroll that they're stealing. So that breaks down the Imperial like war machine in the area that they're targeting. It's like a very big kind of disruption play is what I got out of it.
But how fast can Pal just move money around?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you look at the Thrawn books, especially the second one, in Betrayal, like, if I'm not mistaken, where there's this whole like beef between him and Krennic over the diverting the funds over to Thrawn's TIE Defender project versus Krennic's construction of the Death Star. I mean, Pop could have easily directed funds to fund both if he thought both of them were a valid project for it, but he doesn't. He basically stays out of it and just like let them fight it out between themselves, even though they're both current favorites.
But this would be a little bit different though. This is going to be more of the we have no resources, therefore we're going to lose all these people. And
so you're thinking, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that Palp would step in here, or somebody, probably not even him, somebody would step in here and ease that pain to some extent. So
you're thinking that like why don't they like bomb a part of Coruscant or something more intense, like an attack, something more like at the jugular of the Empire kind of thing? Like,
yeah, it doesn't even have to be a Coruscant, right? Like Coruscant would be great, but I think that's too close to home. I think but you could take out mining facilities, like larger mining facilities, and maybe that's what they're going to lead us up to. Maybe we're going to find out tomorrow or 2 days from now that they're not really there to steal the credits. They're actually there with a secret mission they haven't told Cassian about, that to blow it up, to actually just disrupt that area, like you said, with stealing the money, but with more of a logical reason to do that. And I think of it like when they talk about the shutting down like the droid factories, if we go back to like Attack of the Clones and all those books from that time period, a lot of what the people were doing was working on disruption of separatist operations, because they knew they could just generate the money and the free labor and all of that to bring into it. So they're just like, hey, fuck it, let's just make everything crazy and fucked up for them, so it makes it harder. You know,
I think from a story standpoint, this also kind of gives the ISB to have an excuse to go in and actually like intervene in that particular sector without having to like raise it up to a higher authority, like a local governor or something. Even though the governor of the area should absolutely be involved in when a situation like that happens, but I think that this gives just a plot point to make the rebel cell that much more of a threat that the ISB now has no choice but to get involved and try to track down this rebel cell to put him down.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I again, I agree they got to have money somehow. I just felt like that was traceable was all. Like it's just a traceable thing, and maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. But like to me, it just seems like if you sell trillions of dollars for the Empire, and then miraculously, because we got to think the Rebel cell isn't even a cell yet, right? Like there's a bunch of small cells. They're not all a conjoined
Yeah,
team yet.
they're not. No, that happens much later.
What does Cassian say in the? I kept quoting it. He's like, "To steal from the Empire, you just walk in like you belong.
Yes.
They're so fat and satisfied. No one expects someone like me to walk into their house. They're so fat and satisfied. Yeah. So you just got to walk in like you belong. They're so fat and satisfied. Nobody would expect them to steal from their house. So there you go. That's somehow Palpatine returned, but a little bit more laid out.
Yeah.
No, I obviously a lot of this hinges on like Luthen is definitely like the kingpin of this. Like, I feel like he's like the intermediate between like the extremities of Saw Gerrera's crew and like just like the mundane political side of the Rebel Alliance. Like Luthen's like kind of like dirty, but he's not as extremist as like Saw. And I know that we're gonna see him. I'm really excited about the scenes where they hit like Forrest Whitaker comes back. You get to see Saw Gerrera again. That's super. I'm super excited about that. And why are they together? Like what leads them to be, interfacing with each other?
My prediction is that in that conversation that Luthen has with Mon Mothma, remember she said that she had somebody that she wanted to bring into the inner circle, and Luthen's like protesting to it. I think that the person that she is going to try to bring in is Saw Gerrera. Because they really don't have that fallout until much later, until like the Rebel line starts to like form, and his extreme actions causes people to kind of turn away from the rebellion because they see them as a bunch of extremists based on his actions. So I think that initially she is sympathetic to Saw Gerrera.
Oh, is that the person that she mentions? Right?
We
she
don't.
mentioned
Yeah,
she wants to add
so.
somebody, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't mention by name, but she does mention that she wants
Wait,
to bring somebody into the inner circle.
It's like absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
God, I love that guy's voice.
Yeah,
So good.
And I love his wig and change of personality.
Oh,
and his
come on,
turns
man!
On. Oh my
Dude,
God,
inject
perfect.
every part of it into my veins, man. Seriously, no, it's good. It's good stuff. So I guess we're at the halfway, or we will be at the halfway point, right, on Wednesday. A couple of things, just taking a step back. Would you guys have thought it would have been? So they released 3 episodes at once, which I thought was pretty aggressive. 3, not 2, 3, right? Out of 12 episodes. And then they kind of sprinkle little breadcrumbs, 30-minute episodes, one each week. Should it have been, even though it would have been over the course of less time, 2 episodes a week, maybe not on the same day, but would it have been better for the people that are bitching about the fact that it's kind of like a little trail of breadcrumbs? It's getting bigger, but like, would it have been better to do that? Would it have been better to do a two a week release?
I would say no.
Yeah, and solely for scheduling, right? Because in terms of the release schedule for everything that Disney offers on their service, they are kind of spacing all the series out so that way there's like a small break in between, and then they jump into the next series, whether that's Star Wars or Marvel. And that way there's constantly new content on Disney Plus to kind of keep subscribers on there. So I think that because they've expanded it out, they're basically leaving enough room to make time to reach the release for the next thing on Disney Plus. And I think that's the only reason why they haven't done it that way.
Yeah, it's weird watching in conjunction this show with Rings of Power, because Rings of Power is an hour and 10 minutes an episode, and then you go to Cassian and and Andor, and it's half that, and it's like, okay, but like you get so much in an hour, right? And then you get 30 minutes, and you're like expecting a lot, and then you realize, oh, I've already been watching this for 25 minutes, so the episode's going to end soon. But
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I feel the way they're building it is we're getting like 3 acts and a finale. That's how I feel it. And so if we look at it like the first 3 episodes had to go together. They had to. Like they had to bring you into the mix to say yes, we actually
Episode
want
3
to do this. It had to have been
was
3.
really important for those first 2, right?
Yes.
It's like nothing happens. Nothing happens. I mean, air quotes. And action wise, the first 2, right?
Yep.
So they had to have the third one.
If they didn't, people would have turned it off and they would have given it the Boba Fett treatment. That's what would have happened. Now you could make the argument after that we could go to 2 episodes a week. I still think the 1 episode a week is fine. I would have actually rather see a little bit more content and do like 11 episodes and take that last episode and just break it up over the course of all of them.
Adding 10 minutes would have been better to me. Making them 45 minutes is just such a sweet spot for most shows these days.
But I'm also not a producer or a director. So like we don't, without seeing the whole, like if once we're done seeing it, I could go back through and re-edit this. Like I could take my time to actually re-edit the whole thing if I wanted to. And like it would feel better because I understand like the editing process and things like that without seeing the whole thing. But again, like I said, it feels like we're getting the 3 acts and then a finale, right? We're gonna get 3 pieces. The next 3 episodes are the arc of, where Cassian has to like make bigger decisions to survive. Then we're going to get 3 episodes of him like coming to terms with being part of the rebels, but trying to fight it. And then the last 3 episodes are going to be like the finale, the build up of this is where Cassian becomes Cassian. This is where we get Andor. And I think it goes, if we talk about the best line that any Star Wars show has had recently has been the one where it says, it is easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident. And I will tell you, I literally, they said that. I stopped my show. I rewound it to make sure that's exactly what they said.
Who says that again?
Who says that? I believe.
Oh, Luthen? Yeah.
Yeah, Luthen.
And it going back all the way because it's so important to understand the micro managing piece that the Empire has like built and had spent years and years and years refining, right? That if they had one big atrocity, it would take the rebels less than a year to come together. And it brings me back into like, this is like how, like, to me, this is how our life is. Like, and I guess I'll apologize. I don't like to get really political and all, but I will openly state, like, like when Trump got into office, all the micro pieces that led up to him getting elected, all of a sudden clicks. And it's like, oh shit, we saw it coming, but we didn't see it coming. Yeah. And we didn't understand the magnitude of the impact that it has on just our social life that we had. And that's not even getting into the weeds of the politics.
That scene in the episode 3 when Cassian's basically got him at gunpoint, and he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, don't you want to fight these bastards for real? And he's like shaking and he's like so intense. I'm like, oh, I do want to fight these bastards for real. No, it's the way that they utilize tension to kind of fuel the motivation of the characters for the sake of like their mission as rebels. It's just the fact that like every single thing that he says to Cassian to convince him is so well thought out and well written. It's like, damn, you have me convinced. Like,
how about this? Here's a weird take, Nick. Do you feel this is that Cassian has become the way Han should have been written since the beginning, but instead we had hotshot Han, we had this flyboy that doesn't care about anything, blah blah blah. But Cassian is like the retelling of what Han could have been.
So here's the reason why I love Rogue One really quick. Rogue and Cassian as a character is the fact that they showed that it's not so black and white, that the rebels aren't always just the good guys, the Prince Charmings who do no wrong, who save, those in distress, that they have to make sacrifices and make decisions they're not proud of that could involve killing people, innocent people. Cassian in Rogue One kills an informant because he has no way out. The guy's like causing a scene, he's injured, and he's going to hold him back. He kills him, right? And then the beginning of the first episode you know, he realizes that he's in this pinch where he doesn't know what's going to happen next. If he lets the guy walk, he could be tracked down, even though they end up tracking him down anyways. He kills him. And it's just like, this is the Star Wars universe, in both sides deal with some serious baggage and some serious decision-making issues and stuff that, you know, that like what Saw Gerrera is, like a terrorist, right? But he's a good guy, but he's a bad guy at the same time to a lot of people, because he kills a lot of people. And I love that. But with Han, that comparison, Han, they've taken Star Wars from a more campy, more like, you know, two-dimensional character design to a much more like very depth kind of space where everybody has multiple seasons of shows, and you know, they do all these things that just like were not even considered to be things you would have in movies back in the 70s and 80s. You know, back then it was just about like it just, you know, the special effects barely existed. It was about getting a 90-minute picture up there and having the protagonist, you know, overachieve and succeed. And I mean, even though A New Hope is not the most cliche Hollywood blockbuster film, it's pretty simple, right? Like, Han is the hotshot. That's all you really need to know about him. He's the scoundrel hotshot. Luke is the aspiring, you know, kid who has the coming of age moment when his uncle dies. And then Leia is like the damsel in distress who's super badass, right? But that's who she is. She gets captured. They have to save her. And then she ends up being with them and helping support Luke on his journey to defeat the evil empire, you know? Now we have Cassian, who's killing innocent people, you know, not sure what his identity is, running from his life, his home, he doesn't know where his sister is, trying to find his sister. And he's also dealing with the fact that there's a lot of moral issues, and he is so unconvinced as to which like path he should follow. So I love seeing them go the direction of, hey, not all scoundrels are created equal. Cassian, I wouldn't say should have been Han. Han shouldn't have been Cassian, but it is nice to see that the rebels have operatives that are special, unique. Some of them are not as cool or good as others, right? So sorry, TLDR, no.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing between Han and Cassian is Han basically grew up an orphan. He never got to see his parents die in front of him and didn't have like that persecution piece, whereas Cassian did suffer those traumas, right, and had the knowledge of what it's like to grow up with a family, where Han did not. I mean,
and an
he had to cover
indigenous
those
like
wounds.
tribe, right?
Exactly, yeah, and that's more of a close-knit type family, like at least from what they show. So because of that, I think Cassian feels the greater loss, whereas Han is basically taught the ways to steal and lie and everything that you need to do to survive, and that fits his character, and it's
So I agree with all that, but what I'm trying to say is this is their ability to retell how Han could, a more in-depth Han, right? Like
maybe
Han could be retold, but you're fighting generations of people. It's probably not going to happen, you know. Like
honestly,
even the books
I want to see. I want to see Han liberate the Wookiees. That would be a series that I would love to see. Like bring in Lando, bring in Han, bring in Leia, like bring like all these people in to help liberate the Wookiees from you know their slavery in the mines and stuff. And I want to see that story be told, because I think that there's a really good story for Han that exists there, and Chewie.
Yeah. Well, just to add, I also like that they haven't given Cassian like a love interest. They've mentioned that he's had girlfriends in the past, but I enjoy that there isn't some sort of kind of bullshit romantic kind of, you know, side thing that like is distracting from the story. Because can you imagine the pacing of the show staying the same but including scenes where he has this kind of like love interest? I mean, that would be pretty brutal. It just wouldn't work. And I'm glad that he's just not the character. He's not interested and looking for any of that right now. He's not interested. I'm like, yes, I love it.
You guys haven't found his L3 yet.
Yeah, right. Or his Jyn Erso. I'm still convinced that he fell in love with Jyn at the very end of the movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
the way they're looking at each other, that elevator, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I think that becomes an important piece, because I feel like Rogue One was, out of the newer stuff, Rogue One was one of the better written movies, and one I've seen more than, we'll just say, one time. Han Solo. It was an okay movie. Anyway, but so I don't know. Like I think where we're going with this makes a lot more sense. Now we're on the bridge. I will say there is this weird thing with the girl that doesn't talk, the healer that doesn't talk a lot, and Cassian. So and they openly state,
Catherine
huh?
Catherine's mentioning that character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There you go. They're sharing a blanket with somebody, right? And we don't know who. I'm guessing it's the lead lady, but we don't know. But that girl, they brought interest to that without really giving us her backstory at all. So the question then becomes: does she know Cassian from somewhere else, or does Cassian know her, or is this like how like would it be too cliche if it was somebody from his home world in some way, shape, or form? Yeah.
I was not expecting them to go the route of, because Diego Luna, he made like history being like the first Mexican lead or a Mexican lead actor in Star Wars, right? And I wasn't expecting them. I don't know what route they were going to take with his backstory, but for him to be a part of like an indigenous tribe as a kid, I thought that was really unique. It's very different from what they've explored in the past. It was refreshing for sure. There's just a lot of things in this show that I'm like, this is new. It doesn't feel like something I've seen before. More of that, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some of me wonders if that person is from the same planet, if there's a backstory that's going to get connected here in the next couple of episodes. So,
yeah. How about the ISB officer? The blonde ISB officer who's like a newbie, kind of new to the job. There's a whole side story with her that they're starting to bake in as well.
Yeah, and I think that's what part of me believes is that they're just going to focus on this particular story so that way they can introduce the ISB more.
Yeah.
I'm really actually surprised that we didn't see at least an appearance of a live action Wolf Yularen, which would have been huge to see in Andor. And if they were really going to do like any fan service, like see Iden, Versio, and Infernal Squad in the background, maybe Callus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see like where the going to go forward with the ISB.
Have we not seen Yularen in live action at all?
No, we have not. He's only
except for original trilogy, right? Just in the background.
Yeah, just in the background, and then of course Clone Wars. He was in there, and Rebels, of course.
Yeah, and then there's Serial. I have the character guide pulled up. The bureaucrat.
Yes.
The Morlana 1 bureaucrat who went against his boss's instructions and then got even more people killed, which is like, dude,
I feel like he's about to like turn into like a serial killer. Like everything has gone bad with like his mom like completely berating him in front of everybody.
She reminds me so much of Carrie. It's crazy. Am I the only one?
Yeah,
she totally reminds me of Carrie Fisher. She sounds just like her too.
Yeah, she does.
She looks a lot like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, like this is like a doppelganger, Carrie Fisher. Yeah. So there's a lot of side stories that I'm worried could start impeding with each other. Like they hopefully they don't introduce another one, because then we're gonna have like 5 going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think that's kind of where we see this arc kind of comes to a conclusion. Hence why I feel there's going to be a lot of death personally. Just
I think
because it neatly wraps things up, sadly. Like not that you want that, but like I think it wraps things up very easily for them,
Here's a bold prediction. Mothma loses her family, which convinces her to fully dedicate herself openly against the Empire.
Loses? I think maybe her husband snitches on her. And like something happens where like with trust with them, it seems like that relationship is about to fall apart. Like that marriage is going downhill, man. She does not like him.
Yeah.
And he like is inviting people over that like hate her for dinners. Like what? I was like, I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is, though, does he have a place in any of the books? Like, I don't remember him from the books.
This is the first time I knew that they ever mentioned her family or that she had a daughter or anything like that. And she's not. They're not mentioned in any other story that I know of, even going up to the New Republic and her death on Hosnian Prime.
Yeah, which there's like an East. Did they mention Hosnian Prime in one of the transit facilities? I'm like,
Yeah,
that
they
rings a
did.
bell. Yeah,
Yeah, the second it said that, I was like, oh, Hosnian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I honestly So okay, just to review really quickly the side stories. You have the Luthen side story with what his role is. You have Bix was established as a close confidant of Cassian. You have Cyril. I can't remember how his mom pronounced his name, but the bureaucrat who's on Coruscant now, like in shame. Marva is the like adopted mom. You have Mon Mothma. You have you have the ISB ladies. I can't remember her name, or the ISB people, and then you have one more. I'm trying to. That's a lot. I said her. Yeah. And then there's the people from his sister, maybe, or the Ferrex people, of his friends. Like that's I mean, there's a lot of for 6 more episodes. Who knows? I mean, there's another season, so I guess don't be surprised if we don't get a lot of like closure or resolutions in this season. It could be a lot of these might not be fleshed out until the second season. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of shelved like the bureaucratic Morlana one.
What would be crazy is
that
if his sister joined the Empire as like an officer or something.
Oh shit.
Imagine
to steal from the Empire.
Yeah,
you just walk in like you belong.
That would be weird if that was the case. Let's go back to that. That Charon, that silent Charon, however the hell you say that name.
Mm-hmm.
The bureaucratic dude.
Yeah. So my theory is his uncle is going to try to get him to join the rebellion. He's going to turn him in, and then he's going to get like immediately promoted into like the ISB. Like he's going to do something that puts him into the ISB almost immediately. And
do we know who his uncle is? Sorry,
I don't.
No.
George, I think, is the guy's name.
Yeah. So I thought that it might be the guy, the boss of the ISB, like that. They know that they're like that head guy. Like I thought it might be that dude.
Okay.
With the long gray hair, you know. And that's why he wasn't like reprimanded as harshly. Like he just gets to go home. It's because they have that connection to the Empire. But yeah, no, who knows? I mean, I feel like that's where it's going. It's going to be that guy. It's going to be some sort of reveal. It's like, oh, they know this like head honcho.
And I believe the blonde-haired ISB actor, she's going to enlist Cyril into her camp, and the two of them are going to take down the guy that screwed her over. Because she was so pissed that nobody cared. Nobody cared about your stolen multi-million-dollar unit. That's
Starpath
sealed.
Unit,
Yeah.
Like nobody cares.
Sealed Starpath unit.
And for whatever reason, she's insanely obsessed with that. Like she is dedicating after hours to that. So I feel like her and the other guy are just gonna they're gonna be together, and it's just gonna go like they're gonna do something inside the ISB to draw attention, and that's how he gets promoted. That's my theory.
I mean, we've seen scenes in the trailer already where Cassian is walking around in like an officer's uniform.
Yeah.
I
just walk in like you belong, JJ.
Yeah, imagine if that's him like walking into like ISB to like go extract somebody or to like take out a target like that. That would be huge, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered those 2 episodes. I don't know if there's much more there. There probably is. We're probably missing it. Oh, the one thing I wanted to mention, I didn't know this. Somebody told me this. I didn't know Clem. That was the name of Cassian's like adoptive father. That like his mother's father. That was that guy's name. It's like so subtle. It's not even funny. I completely missed that.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, I missed that too. Wow.
But that's why that's the theory behind why he takes that name when he does it. And the other last piece is like the big reveal of him basically telling everybody, "Go fuck yourself. I did this for money." Like I feel that was a little silly, and I get why they had to do it, but like to me that almost feels a little more so just like this weird plot point they had to set up versus it being natural.
I think it's just to kind of establish where Cassian is mentally, because we see him now as more like the mercenary type, whereas in Rogue One we see that he's a believer because he was willing to do all these atrocities but in the name of the rebellion, to take down the Empire at any cost, right? So there's got to be a way for us to see that transition from the mercenary who's doing it for the credits who later becomes a true believer. So I think that's why they're setting up that starting point for Cassian, where he's at in his head, to later build up to why he ends up becoming a true believer.
It's what it's going to be. It's going to be is it the ship or the droid that I told you I felt was going to be K2SO? I think it was the ship. It's that ship will get destroyed and he's going to go, fuck this, I'm in, baby, I'm in, and then somebody's going to transplant that memories into a K2 unit, and that's how we get K2SO.
What if they go to Mandalore to go get K2SO's body?
Does Mandalore have all the super battle droids or whatever they're called?
It's just that scene where the score, where they're destroying the Mandalore, and it's just a bunch of like super badass shot of all the protocol droids, the K2 droids, just shooting people. But they're all over the place,
That would be a weird tie-in, but I could see it, I guess. All right. Anybody have anything else before we wrap up for the night?
No, that's it. Can't wait for the next show.
Well, Nick, you're welcome back on next week if you want. We seem to be doing this every week, so unless we go like to 11:30, then we don't. But for the most part, we've been doing.
I'll jump on a little later next time.
Yeah.
And that was JJ's fault. We're gonna blame JJ.
That's all right.
So. All right. Well, cool. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around for our Universe Extended. Thanks to Nick for joining us in our discussion. And we will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, to talk more X-Wing. Hopefully points will be released, and we'll have more Andor as well. And if you're still watching this and you want to watch live X-Wing in person being streamed, check out Nick's Squadron, 312 Squadron on Wednesday at 7
Central, 8
7
Eastern.
Central. Holy shit, you're going to be late. Okay. 7 Central. I guess it gives me enough time to watch my Andor beforehand. So there we go.
There you go.
So then I can drop spoilers in your stream chat. You'll actually have to focus on me to ban me.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Anyway, thank you all. Have a good night. And
walk into the squadron.
We will see.
Act like you belong.
Yes, I will.
You're so fat and satisfied. Bye, guys.
Well, that's what happened when I played last week. So there you go.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you next week.